Well, I guess I'm driven by story, and there was a really great Hitchcockian thriller setup to this story about the wrong man who gets picked up and is in danger. And so that appealed to me. It appealed to me that it was set in Paris, a thriller, a sort of muscular thriller set in Paris. And then the sense that it might be able to involve Idris Elba made it very irresistible to me. Well, the Rooftop Chase took an awful lot of planning because I wanted it to feel incredibly real. I didn't want it to feel like CGI created. So we actually built a rooftop on a rooftop in the center of Paris and ran the actors. They ran across that roof and did a lot of the stunts themselves. So I really wanted to create that real vertiginous sense of the drop. And you can only really do that by getting on a rooftop, which is actually quite tricky for me because I'm not really good at heights. I'm terrible, scared of heights, really. So, but I wanted to give the audience that same fear that I have. So we did it. We did it for real. An enormous amount. I mean, you can see on screen, for both for the Rooftop Chase and all the fight sequences, you can see it's them. You can see it's their faces. And we worked very hard. I mean, they trained a lot for the fights as well. It was very important to me that I wanted to be right in there, in amongst it, a real immediate sense, really in your face and you know, gutsy and scrappy, and really connected to them. So we did a lot of training, a lot of work, and they knew those fight sequences down pat, so that they could come in and we could just shoot, you know, big chunks of those sequences on them, and really be clear that it was them. Well, you've got an awful lot of people in a very small space. So you've got not only do you have all the actors, you've got me, you've got 2 cameramen, 2 focus pullers, script supervisor, sound. I mean, everybody's in this tiny space. I mean, we had 3 different vans, I think, and we'd ripped different sides off them at different points. We had them on a gimbal, we had everything moving, so we had all sorts of possibilities that we could do, such that we could get in there, right in there, in amongst it. But it was, yeah, it was a hot several days filming inside a very, very small space. Yeah, crowd work is always tricky. Really more tricky for the ADs than for me. So it's really about planning and management and knowing, you know, being prepared. But you know, they were big crowd sequences and stunts and fights and you know, smoke bombs going off. So there was a lot to coordinate that day. But again, it's really about just trying to get the sense of reality, to get in amongst it, so that it doesn't feel like you're. A lot of crowd sequences sometimes can feel quite manufactured, and one of the things that we worked really hard to do was to try and really get that sort of sense of scrappy reality to it. I looked back at a lot of films from the 70s that I'd kind of grown up loving. So Don Siegel, Clint Eastwood movies like Dirty Harry, Walter Hill movies like 48 Hours. Looked at Midnight Run with De Niro and Charles Grodin. You know, some of these classic films where you've got a mismatched couple, and the energy. But also for Idris's character, I talked to Idris a lot about, you know, Popeye Doyle from French Connection, Dirty Harry. We talked about Lee Marvin, Walker from Point Blank. So real kind of probably a lot of those early 70s movies were the references. Well, I think the characters are sort of, they're morally complicated, but I still think that they are the good guys. And what I like about the characters is that even though they are morally complicated, you understand where they're coming from, and I think you're on their side. I think, you know, Briar and Michael develops more of a moral conscience, I think, through the film. I mean, he starts out as a bit of a parasite. You know, he steals from people. He's a pickpocket. But I think through the film there's a bit of an evolution in his thinking through the relationship with Briar, through Idris's character. And I think that, you know, sort of almost a slight sort of fatherly thing in that. And so I think there is definitely, you're very clear that they are the good guys. I think Michael's character definitely takes something from his interaction both with Briar and with Zoe, and sort of in a sense has to grow up a little bit, and has to develop a bit more of a moral conscience. I think Briar's always like a Western loner. He's like one of these Ethan Edwards types characters, or Dirty Harry. He's always going to be a guy that wanders, takes his own path, and wanders off into the distance on his own. I think probably being on the rooftop and creating that rooftop sequence, it was because we were in an incredibly privileged position to be 6-7 stories above Paris, playing with all these big toys, and just all around us we could see the whole of Paris opening up on a beautiful sunny day. So it was really remarkable.